Single sign-on is a real thing that we could solve problems as an industry on. And I think that is something that we could do together.
This is the Insurance Technology Podcast, where we bring interesting people from across the insurance ecosystem to discuss and debate technology's impact on the industry. Join us each episode for insights and best practices from industry stewards and tomorrow's innovators.
As I had talked about on the last episode, which, while you were off driving through Mexico, I took over your podcast. And we went through a bunch of the old interviews, and you give advice just as much as the guests do. So we decided that it made sense to do one where it's you as the guest, and I will kind of take your place as the host. So in this new format, we're hoping that you can give us some of your opinions. I know you have lots of them, and maybe we'll get a few more listeners.
Probably lose some listeners.
Or that. Yeah, I feel like there should be some sort of legal disclaimer. All right. So my first question. I know that you've been out on the road going to events, meeting with clients. What are some of the problems in the industry you want us, or hell, the audience, the industry at large, to try to help solve to make the industry better?
I think still, first and foremost, connectivity. I think we're getting there as an industry, but we still have a long way to go. Now, it's a little bit selfish, but I don't mean it to be selfish, because that is the business that we are in, right? But I truly believe that connectivity is the lifeblood of innovation. And I know you've heard me say that before, and a lot of people have heard me say that before. For the ones that have not, what do I mean by that? If I'm a technologist and I don't have to worry about connectivity, I can focus on what matters most to my end users. And what is that? I don't know exactly. To be determined by that technology company, digital agency, whatever it may be. But yeah, and with me as a technologist going, oh, wait, I don't have to go and convince carriers and brokers and systems and all of this to connect. The connection is there. Here are the tools. Now I can, like I said, focused on real deal value back to the end user. And I think we'll see a lot of innovation come out of that. And so where is it still lacking? It's still lacking across our industry. People in this industry still don't think it's that important. I mean, our business was founded on that over 40 years ago, when technology started to become a thing, because carriers realized if they could connect directly into agencies, they would simply write more business with carriers.
So tying into connectivity, is there other topics that you think we should be focused in on as an industry?
Well, I'm going to bring this one up. This one's a big one, and it's just top of mind. I think big time in this industry, the biggest thing that's holding us back is adoption. Like, truly. Like, there are solutions out there that are pretty awesome. There are things out there that do really great things. And when I'm talking about software products, right? There's so much that people can do with what's already available, but it's everybody does this, squirrel, shiny object, like, oh, I want the next thing. Oh, that thing's super cool. Oh, you're doing that? I'm buying that. It's funny. Like, somebody told me not that long ago, like, I'm buying this thing, right? Whatever it was. I'm not going to name names. And they're like, what are you buying it for? And the person stopped and you clearly, they didn't know what it even did. But it was like, everybody else is buying this, I should buy it, right? I always loved the example, like a lot of years ago, I was looking for a marketing automation platform like Pardot, HubSpot, like this kind of thing. And this always resonated with me. When I was talking to HubSpot, the sales guy said to me, he's like, well, what's your team that's going to implement this? And like, I always love like understanding people and, you know, in their sales process and whatnot. Cause he's kind and so I was like, well, I don't know, dude, like I'm going to have this person kind of do it or whatever. He's like, yeah, man, I don't think you're quite ready for it. And actually I don't think I really would love this. I don't really want to sell it to you. Like basically he wouldn't sell me HubSpot unless we had a dedicated person and dedicated team to the thing. And at first I'm like, you're the worst salesman ever. Right? And I said this to him. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You know? And I'm like, aren't you trying to close this deal? And he said, actually, no, Reid. I want to make sure that you guys truly adopt this, implement it, and adopt it properly, because I don't want to see you attrit a year later when you haven't used the solution to its fullest potential. I know that this product is awesome and it's going to do great things for you, but it's complicated. It's big. There's a lot to do. And it wasn't like salesy me. It wasn't like reverse psychology in that way. It was being very real. And, you know, also we got into the mechanics of it. I mean, a lot of his bonus, if you will, was based on retention as opposed to new business. And so it was a different culture shift in that way. And that always sat with me. It was smart. And it's like, it's hard to do. And as a company, and especially then I was startup, you know, and we didn't have tons of resources. He wasn't wrong, but I thought it was really great. Why is that not true for our industry when it comes to technology? And I'll speak specifically on the broker side. You know, brokers are set in their ways, and fair enough. Carriers are set in their ways, fair enough. People have done their job in a very great way for a lot of years. There is technology out there now that exists that will help you in your day-to-day. It will streamline. It will do these things. But we're stuck in our own ways.
No, I think adoption, like we had talked about, you know, it's not just the technology, it is the adoption of the technology that provides value. And I think what you just talked about, so focusing on the gaps you're trying to fill, what is your goal, but also having someone who's going to own these implementations to kind of get them across the finish line. You brought up the ownership. And well, yes, it cannot be just them saying, you have to do this. But we've seen adoption be faster, using your words, velocity, when you have someone saying, this is how we're going to do it as an organization versus allowing them to pick whatever they want to do, right? I mean, yes, you have to have everybody involved, but management has to be there.
Yep. I don't know. I personally, my point of view on a business is you should have a system for the business, period. And everybody should follow the path that you put in place. And if you let everybody go all willy-nilly, you're going to have a business that's willy-nilly, you know, and maybe it's hard at first and it takes a lot of time and there's pain and people don't like it, all this and that. Pick any company out there that's ultra successful. Anyone. They have a system in place and their system is a well-oiled machine. And it's funny, in our industry, we just let people kind of do what they want because they've always done it in a certain way. It's not as predictable. It is not. It's not as scalable. Hell no, it's not as scalable, right? And so whatever that system is, that's up to you to design. That's what gives you your competitive edge. But you got to get everybody following in line and doing the same system. And it's not because I'm a dictator. I am not that type of leader. Everybody knows that. But you have to put in place. Think of it through like a franchise model, right? If you're building a franchise and you're selling franchises and your business is a franchise, you're building a business in a box. You're building your business so you can pick it up and you can drop it in somebody else's lap that has no experience in your business. Think about that. What would the systems look like if it was like that? You know, it's think about the onboarding of new people, right?
You also have to be able to, your metrics are all based on the data that you're bringing in. So if you're collecting and doing things in a different way, how are you able to really, truly say what success is?
You can't, because you don't know. You don't know. And that's just it. That's where the whole system comes into play. Like, hey, on average, our conversion ratio is, I don't know, 63%, right? Why is Jeff at 93%? Holy shit, what is he doing? Why is John at 33% conversion ratios, right? At a conversion ratio, right? What's our customer acquisition cost, okay? Customer acquisition cost on this line of business within this demographic by this producer. Oh, you don't know that? That's a hard one to figure out. I understand that. Well, why? Because they have those relationships and that comes in. Start figuring it out. Like I said, what's the average time to do an endorsement for a customer to get that policy change back in their hands? Certificate holder change. Start with that one. What's the average time? I don't know if I'm a customer and I'm a small contractor and I'm sitting there at a GC's office waiting to get paid to pay my guys because I got no money in the bank, and they're saying, you're not getting paid a dime until you give me proof of insurance and the certificate needs to read like this. I need that 10 minutes ago, right? What are you doing about that? Think about that. Taking 2 weeks, not giving a shit because it's not worth it, because it's like, it's only, X amount of premium and I don't care about that. Then don't sell in the first place, all right? But be the best at it. But you can't do any of that. You can't figure out any of that shit. And those are just stupid examples. I mean, we could spend an entire day on this, right? Going through stuff like this. You build a system so you can automate these tasks. You can see them. You can start to understand. You can start to get smart. I think a problem in our industry on the agency side is a lot of it is it's we're in the business.
So we talked about connectivity and that, again, connecting data.
Yep.
Where does transparency come into that? Transparency of data.
Yeah, look, there's all that stuff going on in the news about the UBI stuff and telematics and whatnot. Transparency is a really tough one. We as an industry have to be transparent. I mean, there's no way around it. We have to continue to be transparent. If we lose the trust of each other and we lose the trust of our insureds, right? We lose.
Yeah. And
so we can't play games. We got to stop playing games. It's kind of the wild, wild west around that right now, and it's oh, well, I have a EULA, and they signed deep when they were just like, signing the loan for my new Ford or whatever it is. We'll call it a GMC in this example, right? And now you're using that data and selling it to these vendors that are using it against me on my own insurance. That is not cool. That's not good. The world, nobody likes insurance. That's not the business we're in. Nobody ever even wants to use insurance, right? I mean, unless it's fraudulent. Now that's a whole nother tangent. I don't want to go down, but and so you're there as and you have to be there as their trusted person, company, whatever it may be. And so you have to be transparent. And I think it's pretty hard because the data that we need as an industry is pretty deep. There's a lot there, and there's a lot that we need to truly understand it, and there's a lot that we need to be smarter at what we do, and even to lower premiums. That's where telematics came from in the first place.
Yeah.
But now they're getting in the weeds and getting data at different sources. That's not good, and so I think we need to be very, very transparent.
Okay, you talked about it a little bit with Okta. And I think it ties into what you were talking about with speed as well. The need for single sign-on.
Single sign-on is a real thing that we could solve problems as an industry on, okay? And I think that is something that we could do together. There is an organization that has been working on that for some time, no doubt. I think that there's some things that we could do to really solve that. we struggle with it here at Ivans. We connect close to 700 carriers down to 38,000 agencies. And with that, we're connecting roughly 40 different agency management systems as well as other systems combined on a daily basis. So there's a lot of connectivity. Single sign-on is a real problem. You think about, me connecting to a carrier in multiple ways, and so it's tough. It slows down everything that we do.
Yeah,
it really does. And we're trusted. We know modern technology allows us to do these things, just like we do it in our own enterprises. Why can't we do that as an industry?
Yep.
So I think that is one where we as an industry, and this is one that benefits all of us. I don't know the space well enough to know who it affects negatively, but it might affect a couple people negatively. We should take that into an account, like I was talking about before.
Yeah.
But overall, my gut tells me, hey, this is something that we could fix, and everybody would love it if this was solved. But the funny thing about this stuff, if we fix that, it's not free. If we gave the industry an Okta login, who's going to pay the bill to Okta? Right?
Yeah.
And so
they are not a nonprofit.
Right, exactly. And then okay, fine, be a nonprofit. What are we going to do? Go beg for cash from all of our carrier partners? Who wants to do that? Who wants to go begging for money at a nonprofit? I know a lot of people on nonprofits that are here in the industry, amazing people. I'll tell you, you get them late hours, they will cry at how terrible it is begging for money all the time. So we need to build something. We need to figure that out. We need to figure out how can we build something that is cost effective to the industry that solves this problem, right? And I think it'd be really, really adopted. Single sign-on's a real one. I love that to be fixed for all of us, everybody in this space.
I agree. Is there a need for standards?
Yes, there is a need for standards. 100% there is a need for standards. We as an industry need standardization, just like many other industries. We need standardization in communication, policies, all of it. I mean, there's just yes, and yes. It's hard, though. It's a hard thing to solve. Accord's been working on standardization for a very, very, very long time. It's tough these days when you can be unique and you can change purple or orange or blue or whatever color it may be to green, right? Technically speaking, it's not as difficult as it used to be. So you can get away with it a lot more than you could before. I think a lot of the old school standardization, in my opinion, is going to go away. Why? Because I can connect directly. I mean, if I'm using a product like Indio that literally takes all of the data that I input and it spreads it across all of the supplemental forms. A broker Buddha does the same thing, to be fair, as well as others. I'm not just saying Indio, right? Think about that. I just took all that data that came in, I standardized it, and I pushed it across all the carrier unique stuff, thousands of forms, right? Then I'm taking that and I'm shipping it to those carriers directly.
I think it's over 70 interviews or 70 episodes, a little less interviews because we chunked them up. But yeah, Dennis Chikazian was the first one. I mean, is there anything that got is there anything from the history lesson that we got there that can kind of help us with the future?
Man, I mean, it's all the same stuff that we're still battling with. That's why we wanted to start the podcast in the first place, was to just have a place as for people to go to get the history lesson. I was literally talking to somebody yesterday about it, and we were talking about the podcast, and we were talking about my history and the people that I know and people within my career and everything, and we started talking through it, and she says it's everybody that you interviewed on the podcast, and I'm like, I know, and that's because We wanted a place for people to go to hear the history, to hear the problems that people have been trying to solve for, 40, 50 years. There's still problems today. We've gotten better about it, no doubt.
Yeah.
We haven't solved them, all of them. Right. It's interesting, but it's not. None of it's easy to solve. It wasn't easy 40 years ago, and it's not easy today. I think the problem is in our industry is we live in this world where insurance is not all insurance, right? We have the captives, independents, and everybody is kind of doing their own thing and building their secret sauce, and every agent is very different. There they are. Every agent is unique in their own way. Then we have the MGAs and the MGUs, and excess and surplus.
You're saying that's huge right now as the E&S, right?
100%, and it's complex. You also have huge, catastrophic, massive things happening in regions that crushes insurance in ways, and then that affects how people are purchasing and getting and being covered for insurance in certain demographics. I mean, it's complicated. It really is.
Yeah.
And so I think it's gotten a lot better. It's funny, I kind of go back to some of the stuff that people have said, hey, if you could fix something in insurance, what would it be? A couple things come to mind to me. Regulation statewide and all of that, and kind of streamlining some of that. That's enabling some of the players to do certain things in ways that I think we could streamline overall in this industry if we got away from some of that. Fraud, huge one, right? Massive. I just read something the other day that because of all the legalized marijuana everywhere, the drinking is drastically decreasing overall. This was actually a study that was in Canada. It was a Canadian study that I read, and it was talking about how it's just the drinking and the alcoholism is just going down because people are smoking weed instead of going to the bar, or it's just let's call it what it is. And then I read this other thing the other day about electric vehicles and all the safe stuff that's on the cars now, and how it's totally decreasing crashes, like real data. And then you have the actual telematics stuff that's come on in one of these podcasts. And when you think about gamifying, being a safer driver and all that. So all this technology impacting and just our world are become conscious, and people are getting away from just boozing it up, right? We're starting to see less accidents, less casualties, less chaos, if you will, on the roads. But what we're not seeing is fraud going down at all. As far as I know, and now I'm not an expert, I will say, but that's huge money, right?
Yeah.
Now you also have climate change factors that are affecting insurance as well, and I'm talking our price here, and so it's like a conundrum, right? It's just kind of it's a riddle to kind of solve some of this stuff. Things are getting better, people are getting smarter, right? The cars are smarter. But there's a bunch of nasty people out there still doing nasty things, and they're not getting prosecuted. And the technology hasn't really caught up efficiently enough. The connectivity isn't there where I could know this is a fraudulent person. They've done fraudulent things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe on the auto side, certain pockets, you can see it, right? But it's not across the industry. Truly affects all of our premiums. And so, I don't know, going back 40 years, going back through all the podcast stuff, yeah, dealing with the same problems, I think, differently, and more have come about, right? So
they have. One thing that's it's come up at some of the interviews, but I think some of the conversations we've had with clients too is we need to start tackling this from a one-sided create technology to solve a problem. It's also about adoption, right? Because you could create the most amazing thing, but if we're not going to get the staff within these organizations to use this with their clients or use this with their carriers or agents or all of the different players that you just named, it's not going to work.
I think that's shifting. I do. I think that technology is truly impacting adoption. It kind of has to. The days of, John or Sally CSR running the agency, when I used to sell into agencies, we'd go first. We'd make sure that they are happy, they see it, they love it, they're bought in. That's not. It's becoming less and less about that, and it's more about, here's the technology we're going to use. Our technology team has vetted this out. Leadership, the business side has vetted it out. Yes, of course, we confirmed with you it's going to do the same things that you do on a daily basis, but it's just so much more efficient than what you're doing today, so that you can focus on other things that are more better suited for you as a person, right? And it's being pushed down in that way. Now, there's still a lot of pushback, and there's still a lot of, I don't think that said, it's like the technology has gotten, the agencies, and I'm talking agencies specifically, have deployed real technology teams, right? And they're becoming more of technology in their own way to come up with these solutions. They're pushing these solutions downline. But I think the issue still is that they're not 100% there yet. They're not. Like, you think about commercial lines comparative rating, it's not there yet. Not every carrier is on it, right? Not every carrier it can do bind. Not everyone are just putting on different rates. It's not the same experience that end user is used to by going into the portal. And so they can then go, this thing doesn't work. See, boss, it doesn't work. Screw you. I'm going back to the way that I've always done it, right? That's still happening. And that's just one example. There's other stuff out there that's doing that. So I think the technology has to catch up some more before we'll see full adoption and full ramp around that stuff. But we're seeing it. We are seeing real adoption, especially with the larger shops. All that said, they're dealing with some of that chaos because overall speaking, it is actually much more efficient overall. But you're right. I think it's very right of you to bring up adoption generally. But again, this comes back to us coming together, the industry once again, agencies coming together. And, we have these associations and all this stuff where people get in these rooms, getting it wrong here. I've been in a lot of those rooms, and a lot of time, it's a lot of talk, a lot of bitching, frankly, and nothing getting done after the fact. I was involved in a small group, and this I will make all of you mad, as I should, and you know who I'm talking about. I was involved in a secret group where everybody wanted to sit around and, all these secret people about all this secret stuff I'm not going to get into because I'm not going to bring it in. It was a bitch fest. And I said, what are we doing here to actually solve the problem? What are the next to do something here? And here's the reality. Everybody's got a day job. These are all people running organizations. I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff. I'm not like shitting on you per se. Hey, I'm just saying that it's just a bunch of hot air. Nothing is getting done. And so, how do we as an industry start to rekindle that stuff? Yeah. Ivans was formed by 25 or so carriers 40 years ago to solve a problem. Same thing with the cord, right? So on and so on and so on and so on. How do we get back to people donating their time for the betterment of this industry to solve real problems? Agencies coming together with agencies. Agencies coming together with carriers. Carriers coming together with carriers. Of course, building a platform for your secret sauce and saying, hell no, I would never do that, because then you're going to get this or get that. But also listening to people in the room that go, hold on, I want to challenge you on that for a second here. And let me explain how this actually could help you. And being open to that, you know? And so I think that kind of stuff is what we need to get back to. I'm the face of it, or I'm going to go and do it, because again, we're busy too, right? But I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. It's food for thought. People need to start coming back together around this stuff. Like, everybody's worried about me and this and that and the other. And where can we go as an industry to come together to get the real deal of who's doing what? You know, what is actually happening? What do people think is going to happen? Where do people go to the source and to really understand this stuff that is concerning them as an industry, or is exciting to them as an industry? And so I don't know. I think that there's a lot of that. I think it just come together generally, period. But in our case, I think it would help. And I think it's the right people getting in the right rooms and spending time to forward this, because it's good for all of them, and just being open with each other, you know?
So are there certain things that, you know, you recommend when people go and they're part of these, you know, startup pitches or hackathons, or, you know, being part of these innovation groups? Like, is there things that they should be either willing to do themselves, or to, like, certain questions they should ask to make sure that we're, you know, getting some action out of these conversations?
Insurtech Boston is an awesome event. It's fun. It is the right people in the right room, and we have just a great time. And people learn, you know, what's happening and new stuff that's coming out. We don't do any paid pitches or any of that kind of junk. I think that the industry, these big events, I'm not going to name names, and you know, that's what it's become. You know, pay $100,000 to get up on stage. That's bullshit. Yeah, that is bullshit. Like, why not get interesting people that can provide insights to the attendees, right? And recruit those people to speak. It's become a machine once again, you know? Yeah. No. And so anyways, it's almost like it needs to be rewritten. Like, people need to come together and form something that is real, you know, where we are all coming together, and it's not the, hey, I want to get rich doing this thing, or, you know, I mean, look, everybody has to pay for this, and maybe there is a business model where people do make money. I get it. But 100 G's to get up on stage, that means that I can come out with an idea. I can go do a big capital raise, and I can pay to be on every stage out there, and everybody will think it is the coolest thing out there, right? Who's to judge?
I actually just put something out on social media the other day, because we just finished Insurtech Boston, and that was one of the things that was commented on, is that we only had one that was really truly could be defined as an Insurtech startup. We had Insurtechs, but they had been around for years. So all you startups out there, come talk to us. We want to be able to feature you.